Rich family humiliates poor girlfriend at funeral until lawyer reveals she inherits everything. At that moment, in the packed church for the funeral of the man she loved, Isabella was about to leave in utter humiliation. But then, a voice cut through the heavy silence. "Mrs. Blackwood, I must insist that Miss Isabella not be removed. Her presence is required for the reading of Mr. Liam Blackwood's will, which, as per your explicit instructions, will be read now." The shock was instantaneous. The family that had thrown her out of their home was now forced to watch as she was named in the will. But what no one in that room, not even Isabella, could have imagined was the single sentence that would follow. A sentence that would transfer a $700 million empire and transform a poor, grieving girlfriend into the most powerful woman in town. To understand how it all came to this, we need to go back to the day when the Blackwood family's contempt sealed their own fate. 2 years before that terrible funeral, I met Liam Blackwood. I was covered in paint, teaching a 7-year-old girl how to mix colors for a sunset at a community center for underprivileged children. He walked in, wearing a simple dress shirt, looking completely out of place but smiling kindly. He said he wanted to volunteer. For 3 months he showed up every Friday. He never talked about himself. He just listened. He never mentioned that he was heir to a fortune worth hundreds of millions. I just thought he was a nice guy who worked in some office downtown, until the day he invited me to dinner. We went to a little Italian restaurant I loved, and he seemed nervous for the first time. "Izzy, there's something I need to tell you. My full name is Liam Alexander Blackwood." I should have run. The Blackwoods weren't just wealthy. They were an institution. I'd read about them, about their cold and calculating matriarch, Catherine, who ruled the family empire with an iron fist. I should have realized that his world and mine would never fit together. But I was in love. And love makes us believe impossible things. When Liam finally took me to meet his family, I prepared for battle. I spent my last $50 on a simple, elegant dress from a thrift store. I researched formal dinner etiquette on YouTube. I practiced conversations in the mirror. None of it mattered. The moment we entered the mansion, and I say mansion because it wasn't a house, it was a palace of marble and cold silence, Catherine Blackwood looked me up and down. Her eyes, the same steely grey as Liam's, dismissed me with a single glance. "So, you're Isabella," she said, her voice icy. "Liam told us so much about your community work. What does your father do, honey?" The way she said honey sounded like an insult. "He's a janitor at a commercial building downtown," I replied, my voice firm, refusing to show any shame. Catherine shivered, a barely perceptible tension around her mouth. But I saw it. Marcus, Liam's older brother, let out a low, condescending laugh. "A janitor? Well, someone has to clean the bathrooms, I guess. Tell me, Isabella, did you even finish college?" "Marcus," Liam warned, his hand finding mine under the table. His grip was firm, tense. "What? I'm just trying to get to know my brother's girlfriend." Marcus swirled his wine. "It's just that usually people in our circle have, a formal education, connections, something to offer beyond that." He trailed off, letting the insinuation hang in the air. Vivian, Liam's sister, spent the entire dinner fiddling with her phone, occasionally glancing at me with an expression of profound boredom. That dinner was one of the most humiliating experiences of my life. I felt like an exhibit in a zoo. A strange creature Liam had brought home for the family's amusement, and that was just the beginning. Months later, at the annual Blackwood Charity Gala, Liam insisted I attend. As I stood beside him, feeling out of place in a borrowed dress, he took the stage. "I've decided to personally donate half of my trust fund to expand the city's homeless shelter program," he announced. "That's $50 million. The room fell silent. Then Catherine stood, her face a mask of fury, but her smile was icy polite. "Liam, dear," she said, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear, "it's a wonderfully passionate gesture. But I think a decision of this magnitude needs to be discussed privately with the family first, don't you think?" "No, Mom. It's already decided. I signed the papers this morning," Liam said, his voice firm but respectful. Catherine's smile narrowed. "You can't just throw away the family legacy, our family money. On, she gestured vaguely, unable to hide her disgust. "These people." These people are human beings, Liam replied, his voice firmer. And that's where I made my mistake. Feeling a surge of pride for him, I stood up. Mrs. Blackwood, with all due respect, helping people isn't throwing money away. The look Catherine gave me could have frozen the fire. You, she said, her voice a low, venomous whisper. A little girl playing dress-up with my son's money. You don't understand how the real world works. You have no place here, and you certainly don't have the right to an opinion. Laughter echoed around the nearby tables. I'd never felt so small. 3 months later, Liam received his diagnosis. Cancer. The word echoed in the sterile white of the office. The doctor, a kind man with sad eyes, showed us the scans. Sorry, Liam, he said gently. It's back, and it's aggressive. We can start treatment, but you should be prepared. 6 months, maybe less. The car ride home was silent. When we arrived at his apartment, he finally turned to me, his face a picture of despair. I'll understand if you want to leave. I'll release you from this. I cupped his face in my hands. Liam Blackwood, I'm not going anywhere. I love you. That's what people who love each other do. We don't run away when things get tough. We hold on tighter. He collapsed into my arms. The next 6 months were the hardest and most beautiful of my life. I was with him through every chemotherapy session, held his hand through every bad night. His family visited him 4 times, always with papers to sign. They never asked how he felt. When Liam died, I was holding his hand. His last words were, "You made me happy, Izzy, truly happy." And that brings me back to the funeral. While I was sitting in the back, Catherine came up to me. "Your crocodile tears won't work on me, girl. My son died, and you got exactly what you wanted. Now get out of my funeral before I have security drag you out." I stood up, ready to leave. But then, the lawyer's voice interrupted everything. He insisted I stay. He announced that the will would be read now. The silence was deafening. Edmund, the lawyer, began reading Liam's letter. It spoke of a family that valued money above love. And then it spoke of me. And then I met Isabella Chen. She fell in love with Liam the person, not Liam the Blackwood. That night at the charity ball, when she stood up for me and you laughed at her, I made a decision. I went to Edmund's the next week and changed everything. A cold dread gripped the church. Edmund turned the page. "To my mother, Catherine, I leave the diamond necklace. To my brother, Marcus, I leave the books. To my sister, Vivian, I leave the artwork. To my brother, Owen, I leave the cars." He paused. The church held its breath. "The remainder of my estate, including my trust fund, majority shares of Blackwood Industries, all property and every remaining penny, I leave to the only person who ever loved me for who I was." Edmund looked up and met my eyes. "I leave everything to Isabella Marie Chen." The explosion was instantaneous. "No," Catherine screamed. "This is fraud. She manipulated him," Marcus screamed. Vivian burst into tears of rage, and I froze. $700 million. It didn't seem real. A week later, Edmund was sitting in my small apartment. "The family wants to settle," he said. "They'll drop all lawsuits in exchange for 60% of the estate. What if I refuse? They'll fight. It could take years." He slid another document across my coffee table. "But before you decide, there's one more thing." He revealed evidence of Catherine's embezzlement, Marcus's misuse of company funds, and Vivian's insider trading. Liam knew. "These documents are yours now," Edmund said. "You have the power to destroy them. Or you could offer them a different deal." That night, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Catherine, Marcus, and Vivian Blackwood standing in the dimly lit hallway of my building. They looked profoundly out of place, their expensive clothes a stark contrast to the worn carpet. "Can we come in?" Catherine asked, her voice strained and lacking all its usual authority. I stepped aside. They entered my small living room, looking around with barely concealed disdain. "Is this where you live?" Vivian murmured. "What do you want, Catherine?" I asked, crossing my arms. "We've come to discuss the situation," Marcus began, taking charge as always. "Edmund informed us of your reluctance to accept our generous offer. 60% is more than fair. You'd be set for the rest of your life. You could go back to doing whatever it is you do." "The offer wasn't generous," I said calmly. "It was an attempt to buy my silence." You assume, as you always have, that my price is simply a matter of finding the right number. Isn't it? Catherine retorted, losing her composure. Isn't that what you've always been about? My son is dead and his fortune is in the hands of a gold digger. Mom, stop, Owen said, appearing in the doorway behind them. This isn't helping. He looked at me. They're scared, Izzy. That's all. Afraid? Marcus laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. We are Blackwoods. We are not afraid. We seek revenge. Then you should know, I said, my voice dangerously low, that I have Edmund's documents, evidence of embezzlement, harassment lawsuits, insider trading. If you want to get even, Marcus, I can guarantee the only thing you'll get is a prison sentence. The color drained from their faces. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by the sound of traffic coming from the street below. I had them. Completely. What do you want? Catherine finally whispered, no hint of struggle in her voice. I need some time to think, I said, walking to the door and holding it open. I'll contact you on Friday to let you know my decision. Now please leave. They left without another word, the sound of their retreat a symphony of defeated pride. On Friday morning, they were sitting in the mansion's dining room, the same room where they had once mocked me. But now I was sitting at the head of the table. I won't give you 60%, I began, but I won't kick you out either. You can stay in the mansion's guest house. We'll each receive a monthly stipend, enough to live comfortably without extravagance. Marcus narrowed his eyes. What's the matter? The problem is, you guys work hard. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, you'll work at Abrigo Santa Catarina, the homeless shelter Liam was funding, the one your mom called the money pit. Catherine paled. You want us to work with these people? These people are human beings, I said, my voice hard. The choice is this. Accept my offer, housing, security, and a job that can give your lives meaning, or refuse and walk away with nothing but the change Liam left you. You have the weekend to think it over. Monday morning, Edmund will come to hear your decision. Catherine stood slowly. She walked toward me. For a moment, I thought she was going to slap me. Instead, she just stared at me, her eyes filled with a toxic mix of hatred and helplessness. You'll regret this, she hissed. No, I said, staring at her unblinkingly. You will. On Monday morning, I stood in the shelter's main hall, watching the crowd gather for breakfast. Through the glass, I saw the Blackwood family arrive. They were dressed differently, nothing designer. Catherine wore simple pants and a blouse. Marcus wore jeans. Vivian's face was makeup-free. I pushed open the door. I'm here to work, Catherine said before I could speak. Her voice was strained, but she was there. We're all here. Patricia, the shelter director, handed out tasks without ceremony. Catherine, kitchen, Marcus, reception, Vivian, donation sorting, Owen, maintenance. Wait, Catherine said. Don't we have training? Orientation? Patricia raised an eyebrow. Do you need training to treat people with respect and dignity? Catherine closed her mouth. For the next 8 hours, I watched the Blackwood family confront a reality they had never recognized. Catherine, who had never cooked a meal in her life, stood over industrial pots of soup, sweating in the steam, taking orders from a woman who had also been homeless 5 years earlier. At one point, she recoiled when a resident's hand brushed against hers. The resident just stared at her with sad, weary eyes. Don't worry, Mum, he said. Poverty isn't contagious. Catherine turned away, her face burning with shame. Marcus, accustomed to being disrespected, processed the entry of people who challenged him, questioned the rules, sometimes smelled bad, or spoke aggressively. He tried to apply his business logic to streamline the process, but was quickly overwhelmed by human chaos. This is inefficient, he complained to Patricia. We could optimize this. This isn't a factory, Mr. Blackwood, she replied calmly. It's a sanctuary. Efficiency comes after empathy. Vivian, who organized her life to social media perfection, sorted through trash bags filled with stained clothes and broken items. She gagged at the smell, and I saw her nearly give up twice. And Owen. Owen surprised everyone. He seemed comfortable. He fixed a broken shower, helped an elderly man carry his belongings, and sat listening when a veteran wanted to talk for an hour about a war no one remembered. By 5 o'clock, they were exhausted, physically and emotionally. Same time tomorrow, I said simply. Catherine looked at me, and for the first time there was no hatred in her eyes, just exhaustion. How do they do this every day? She asked. Do what? Survive like this, with nothing. They have nothing, I said. They have resilience, something you and I couldn't imagine. 3 months later, I was in my new office at Blackwood Industries, transformed from Liam's space. Where he had awards for corporate raiding, I now had photos of the shelter. The company was changing too. I had redirected 15% of profits to social programs. I created job training for people transitioning from homelessness. I implemented living wage policies at all levels. The board thought I was crazy, but the company's public image had never been better and employee morale was high. My phone rang. It was Patricia. You need to come here, the principal said, her voice strange. 20 minutes later, I entered the shelter and stopped dead in my tracks. Catherine was teaching a cooking class. Teaching, actually, showing a group of single mothers how to prepare nutritious and economical meals. She laughed, demonstrated techniques, and complimented someone's work. In a corner, Marcus sat with a young man, helping him fill out job applications, patiently explaining the questions. His voice was calm and encouraging. Vivian had organized the entire donation center into a boutique, organizing everything by size and style so people could shop with dignity instead of rummaging through bags. She was helping a young woman choose an outfit for a job interview, and Owen started a repair program teaching basic home and bicycle repairs. I felt tears sting my eyes. It took about 6 weeks, Patricia said, appearing beside me. That's how long it takes for people to stop seeing homeless people and start seeing people. That night I asked them to stay after their shift. I want to talk about the deal, I began. Catherine's face tightened. Are you going to finish? No. I want to change it. I received new contracts. You've been working here for 3 months. You've shown up every day. You've learned. You've really helped people. So, I'm changing the terms. You're no longer required to work 5 days a week. You can reduce it to 3 days if you want. The pay remains the same regardless. They stared at me. Why? Vivian asked suspiciously. No catches. You've proven you can do the job. Now I'm giving you the option to keep doing it because you want to, not because you have to. What if we decide to leave for good? Owen asked. Then you leave. You keep your salary for 6 months while you decide your next steps. Catherine shook her head slowly. I don't understand. Why are you doing this? Because Liam didn't want you to suffer. He wanted you to understand, to change. And I think you're starting to change. I looked at each of them in turn. I'm not saying you're different people now, but you've shown me that you're capable of growth, of empathy, and that's enough to earn my respect. But not your forgiveness. Catherine's voice was low. I thought about it. You mocked me at the lowest point of my life. You tried to kick me out of the funeral of the man I loved. You called me a gold digger. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. So no, I'm sorry, not yet. Maybe never, but... I paused. I can offer you understanding. I understand that you were afraid of losing control. I understand that grief made you cruel. That doesn't justify what we did, Marcus said calmly. No, but explain. And explanation is the first step toward accountability. I stood up. Think of the new terms. Let me know by Friday. On Friday, I received 4 messages. Catherine, I'll stay. 3 days. I want to expand the cooking program. Marcus, I'll stay. I'm good at hiring. Plus, I've been meeting with companies about job placement partnerships. Vivian, I'll keep my 3 days, but I want to talk about something else. Can we meet? Owen, I'm going full-time. 5 days. This is the first job that's ever felt meaningful to me. That last one made me smile. I met Vivian at a coffee shop. I want to expand the boutique concept, she said, pulling out a folder full of budget projections and a brilliant marketing strategy. Turn this into a true non-profit that provides professional clothing to anyone transitioning from homelessness. I watched her. The old, bored Vivian was gone, replaced by someone with a twinkle in her eye. Okay, I said. Let's go. I'll provide the seed funding for Liam's foundation, but you manage it. A year after the funeral, the shelter held its annual fundraiser. This year it was organized by the Blackwood family. Catherine had mobilized her old social contacts forever. Marcus had secured corporate sponsorships. Vivian's non-profit Second Chances Closet was in the spotlight. Owen had put together a photo exhibit showcasing the shelter's work. "He'd be proud, you know," Edmund said, appearing at my side. "Liam once told me he wished his family could see the world the way you do. You didn't just show them, you made them live it." Later, I found myself alone in the shelter's chapel. "I hope I did what you asked," I whispered. "They're changing, Liam, slowly. You did everything right." I jumped. Catherine was standing in the doorway. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I heard you talking." "I hated you for months," she confessed, her voice breaking. "But the truth is, you didn't steal anything. I pushed Liam away. I valued money more than my son's happiness, and when he died, I blamed you because it was easier than blaming myself." She broke down. "You gave us a second chance," she sobbed. "You owed us nothing, and you gave us a second chance." I sat beside her, not touching, but present. "I can't forgive you," I said softly. "Not yet." Catherine nodded, still crying. "But," I continued, "I can work alongside you. I can respect the changes you're making. I can recognize that you're trying to become someone your son would be proud of." She looked at me, her eyes red and puffy. "This is more than I deserve." "Probably," I agreed, "but it's what Liam would have wanted." 2 years later, a documentary titled The Blackwood Transformation was released. The final scene showed the 5 of us working together at the shelter's Thanksgiving dinner, laughing, really laughing together. When asked if she had made the right choice, the narrator quoted me, "I made the choice Liam would have made. Whether it was right or not, history will decide. But I sleep well at night and that's enough." I sat in my living room, watching the credits. My phone vibrated. A group message from the Blackwoods, planning a family movie night. I smiled and typed, "My place. Friday, 7 p.m. And Marcus, bring 2 bottles of that expensive wine." I looked at Liam's photo on my mantelpiece. "We did it," I whispered. "We didn't have a perfect ending, but we became something real, something you would be proud of." I raised my glass to his photo, to complicated legacies, to difficult transformations, to the hardest choice I've ever made, the choice to believe in people, even when they gave me every reason not to. The question for you is, what would you have done in my place? If you had absolute power over the people who hurt you, would you choose revenge, or forgiveness, or the third option, the hardest, demanding accountability but offering a path to redemption? I chose the hardest path, and by healing them I healed myself, because carrying hate is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. But choosing to believe that people can change, that's legacy. And that begs the question, what would you have done in Isabella's shoes? Would you have chosen total revenge, or was her conditional act of mercy the right choice? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. But before you answer, I have a quick but very important request. We're a new channel and your subscription is the most powerful signal you can send to YouTube that you want more heartwarming stories like this. If you've watched this far and this story touched you, take a second to click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. It's free and ensures you won't miss the next episode. Thank you for being part of this journey. See you next time.